Hi and welcome to CBN4's Primetime News for this evening. I'm your presenter, Alian Christopher. First up tonight, Public Relations Officer of the Dominica Electricity Services, Adina Bellot-Valentine, has stated that Dominic continues to research ways in which it can build a more resilient electricity service to withstand a disaster like that of Hurricane Maria. Valentine noted that building a resilient electricity service would mean placing smaller units in various communities such as solar and wind energy.
We've been exploring, we are talking with the government and other agencies, and so, we want to build a more resilient and robust network, that will help us to get back quicker on our feet. We have been talking about, doing small generating units for communities, some of the communities that may not receive power in the immediate. And so we are exploring that. We have to look at safety, care for the equipment, maintenance of the equipment, and so on that we intend to do in some other areas. But
Adina Bellot-Valentine said that this is being looked at as Dominic continues to work with its parent company. And preliminary assessments done by the Dominica Water and Sewerage Company has shown that the required amount needed to rebuild a resilient water and sewerage network has been estimated to be over $140 million. Chief Engineer of the WASCO, Magnus Williams, made that announcement at a recent press briefing which focused on the water company, the WASCO.
Yes, so a preliminary damage assessment was done, and the estimated cost to build back better with full resilience for the entire network has been preliminarily estimated to be in excess of $140 million for entire water and sewage network. To date, we've spent probably in excess of $3 million just on relief activities so far. But just to reiterate, we expect that to fully restore systems with a high level of resilience, that the estimate is probably about over $140 million. And that will be refined as we go forward and we do these studies, and we'll have a more, accurate picture later on.
The WASCO, like every other institution, suffered significant damages during the passing of Hurricane Maria on September 18th. Williams mentioned at the briefing that a number of the company's water systems were either destroyed or interrupted during the hurricane. And also making our headlines, the Minister responsible for Social Services, Family and Gender Affairs, Honorable Catherine Daniel, says that the government's policy has always been for the social sector. The government's policy is that all vulnerable persons should have a dignified life, according to the Minister. The Minister spoke in response to a joint emergency cash transfer initiative that was launched on Monday, led by the government of Dominica.
We have made sure that this has happened through our various programs that we initiate from the Social Services Ministry. We have the Yes We Care program, a brainchild of the Honorable Prime Minister, which has been in existence from 2009. We have the PAP program, Public Assistance Program, which has been in existence for a long time. We have the Foster Care Program, and all these programs are geared at reaching the most vulnerable people in our society. And government's policy is that no one should be left behind, regardless to your race, color, creed, or class. Once you're vulnerable, you should be included in that program. And so we spare no bones in reaching out to these people. And so we welcome the initiative of the World Food Program and UNICEF in coming to our rescue or aid after this catastrophic event that we had, Hurricane Maria.
Daniel said that the collaboration with UNICEF and the World Food Program widens the margin in which the social services sector meets persons in dire need.
Not only are they helping those already on the public assistance program, the foster care programs, the Yes We Care program, but they have recognized that there are people, as a result of the hurricane, who have lost their livelihood. And so they have been placed in that new phase of their life where they have become vulnerable. As you said, lactating mothers. We know many people who lost their work and are now on the unemployment list. And we know many people who have lost their livelihoods, their fishing, their farming, the farming sector. A lot of people have lost their livelihoods. And that is why our Prime Minister has made it his mission to seek and obtain assistance for those in such situations.
The minister notes that this new initiative launched on Monday will be a welcoming gesture to a number of people. She also encouraged persons who will be receiving the money to use it wisely. And in other stories, His Excellency Kamis Al-Shahuti, Qatar's ambassador to Dominica, donated $300,000 towards rebuilding efforts here in Dominica. The presentation was made on Tuesday, December 5th, at the office of the Prime Minister in Roseau. Dominica, known as the Nature Isle of the Caribbean, suffered severe damage to its infrastructure. At a recent UN high-level conference, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit announced that the post-disaster needs assessment put total damages and losses suffered from Hurricane Maria at 226%, or over $1.3 billion, 2 years after Dominica suffered significant damages from Tropical Storm Erica. And stay tuned for more local news highlights after this break. And welcome back to CBN4's Primetime News Package. The Dominica Water and Sewerage Company, the WASCO, is seeking to improve on its reliability and quality of the service to the general public by moving into renewable energy.
With renewable energy, you will have a higher initial upfront cost, but the operating cost in the long run will be very minimal. And so it is in our best interest of WASCO to ensure that we go into renewable energy because the operating costs will be significantly lower as well. So there are very tangible benefits, as we can see from all sectors, and we're happy to see that we already started in that area.
The Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Housing, Lands and Water Resource Management further notes that the move to renewable energy will increase the WASCO's reliability.
That even in the new system we're doing, in our whole question of building back better, which we already started, in our model project at resettlement at Bellevue-Chopin, we have to ensure, we're ensuring that we take the water from an area of a lot of serious stream flow from the Pichling Heights. But to get that water to Bellevue-Chopin, since Bellevue-Chopin is at a high elevation, we have to pump. We had to ensure that we got into our pockets to get almost $300,000 to get a renewable energy system for that water supply. So we already started the process, and this is where we want to go to ensure that we have the level of requisite service quality in going forward in what we do.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Housing, Lands and Water Resource Management, Lucien Blackmore. And His Excellency, the President of Dominica, Charles Savrin, as part of his annual Christmas visits, is scheduled to pay a visit to the Northern District Home for the Aged Inc. at the Grange in Portsmouth on Thursday. The President is also expected to visit the Regional Armour Hospital in Portsmouth on the same day. During the visit to the Regional Armour Hospital, a representative from Care of the Elderly will be present to receive a cash donation from the President's Foundation. The expected times for both visits have been advanced to 9:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. respectively. And also in the news, since the passing of Hurricane Maria, the Planning Division has been making a call to the public to seek their advice and instructions before attempting to repair their homes, mainly the rooftops. Chief Physical Planner Kelvin Roll indicated that the Planning Division, along with the government organizations, upgraded their policies to build better. Roll says that the intensity of Maria as an upper-level Category 5 hurricane has alarmed the entire country, Therefore, seeking the advice of the division, it will benefit homeowners.
We have done a preliminary review, of most of the buildings that got damaged, or a lot of the buildings that got damaged, and we have realized that a lot of the buildings' roofs were damaged because of some shortcomings in the construction methods that were used. So, for instance, we realized that where screws were recommended, nails were used. For instance, screws from purlines to rafters were recommended in the approved plans, nails were used, and hurricane ties were not used onto purlines. And most of the damage to houses was due to first of all, the galvanized being uprooted from the purlines, or the purlines being uprooted from the rafters. And we feel that if screws were used, then there would be less damage to most of the roofs. Now, if an individual is the galvanizers, the sheeting has just gone from the purlines, and they just want to recover their roofs, we're not asking them to reapply. But if the rafters have been uprooted and the wall plate, which supports the rafters, has been uprooted from the building, then they really have to construct a new roof. Now we have we have developed some new guidelines which we want people to follow.
The Physical Planning Division admits that they are well aware that persons are trying to repair their roofs as quickly as possible. For that reason, to minimize losses in the upcoming hurricane season or event of another such disaster, the Planning Division has given specific instructions when constructing new rooftops.
So we're saying if your wall plate has gone and your rafters has been demolished, maybe due to the age of the roofs, or maybe due to some poor construction practices, or just the strength of the wind, whatever, that because you're going to design a new roof, then we would like you to do drawings for the roof and resubmit it. You'll get approval real quick. The drawings for the roof would include rafters, purlines, and there's the whole shape of the roof. We want you to increase the slope of the roof to a minimum of 25 degrees.
Rose says that many of the policies encouraged by the division existed before Hurricane Maria. He also says that the Planning Division has simply bettered its standards to protect life and property. Meantime, Development Control Officer Eric Shillingford stated that whether a roof is in concrete or timber, Planning Division should approve of it before its construction. Shillingford stressed that the division is only seeking to better Dominica's building techniques in an attempt to build stronger.
Before you undertake that process, contact us at the Planning Division. We ourselves, our building, we suffered damage, but we are here and we are operating so that we can advise you. Because as Mr. Roll alluded to, sometimes poor construction practices, and we've already seen that on the ground, where in the haste to provide shelter to themselves and their families, you still have the same poor construction practices being undertaken. Now you mentioned the question of concrete roofs. What we try to say to persons is that we are in a hurricane belt. Practically every year we have to prepare for an event. Praise God when it doesn't happen. Unfortunately, Maria came around and we suffered tremendous damage. We're also in a seismic zone. On Dominica, we have 9 active volcanoes. And what we find happening is that in their haste to protect themselves from another hurricane event, persons want to put a concrete roof. But sometimes they are ill-advised because the structure they may have built, provision was not made for a concrete roof. And unfortunately, there are builders out there who will still go ahead and without adequate provision for concrete roof, they'll put a concrete slab. It happened just recently in Layo, where I passed yesterday and there was a concrete slab on our house that was not ever designed for it. Now, what do you do in a situation like that? So you have a vested interest as owner to protect yourself, to protect your family. I know there's a desperate need for you to cover, but once you will have covered, there's going to be an investment. You need to do it right, and that's what we're advocating. Do it right this time around.
He also explained that not all homes are suited for concrete roofs. The control officer gave a few details on what is required before attempting to construct a concrete rooftop.
Your foundation would have to be adequately designed. Now your foundation adequately designed to support columns and whatever weight, especially in a frame structure. Now a frame structure is where you have foundation footings, columns, beams, a slab. Now that house would have to be adequately designed to receive those loads, because it's much more loading than an ordinary timber framed roof. So provision would have to be made. Now, if provision was not made in that original structure for a concrete roof, then you now have to go to an engineer who would give you advice as to whether or not what you want to do, it can happen and how can it happen. So the engineer would do what you call maybe an intervention, look at the structure that is present and say, okay, it can be done. However, you need to do X, Y, Z. If it cannot be done, he will tell you straight it cannot be done.
Shillingford says that the planning division has basic guidelines from engineers, and those buildings that follow such instructions are so-called adequately designed to withstand the natural disasters, be it concrete or timber. And we'll be back with more news after this break. And welcome back to CBN4's Primetime News. And now with news from around the region, Antigua and Barbuda's poorly performing citizenship by investment program is up to 20% for November when compared to its past few months. The program has been declining since Canada removed a visa-free status for Antigua and Barbuda passport holders, and the government has been attempting to come up with innovative ways to stem the drop in applications. Shameen Quinlan Donovan, the program's chief executive officer, said September was a challenging month for the program. She said the passage of the hurricane played a role in the reduced applications. According to her, emails were quickly sent out, and during participation at several international forums, marketing partners were notified that Antigua was not impacted by Hurricanes Irma and Maria and was open for business and accepting applications for citizenship. She noted that this year has been a slower year when compared to 2016. which she blamed on what was occurring in the market with competition from St. Lucia and the rebranded program in Grenada within the last 2 years. Grenada's Prime Minister has announced a slightly higher one-off payment to public workers, urging them to take it in time for Christmas. Keith Mitchell's government and trade unions have been odds over a second one-off payment. The most recent offer of $650 has been rejected, with the government previously stating that it would be unable to go any higher due to fiscal responsibility laws. It has been stated that the trade unions are hoping for a settlement between $1,500 up to $2,000 per person. The new offer is $700 each, or $750 for workers and more than 3 years of services, and $650 for those with less. And a Moravian pastor in Jamaica will know in March next year what punishment he will be facing for having sex with 2 girls, both minors, after he admitted to committing the acts. Reverend Rupert Clark pleaded guilty to 2 counts of having sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 16 when he appeared in the St. Elizabeth Circuit Court. The 64-year-old was arrested on December 28, 2016, when police found him in his car with one of the girls in a compromising position. It was subsequently discovered that he had also had a sexual relationship with that girl's sister when she was under the consent age. Clark, who had initially pleaded not guilty, changed his plea to what was just supposed to be ruling on the prosecution's application to have his matter transferred to another court. The pastor, who once led the congregation at Nazareth Moravian Church in Manchester, continues on bail pending his return to court on March 8, 2018 for sentencing. And stay tuned, there's more news coming up your way after this break. And welcome back. Russia has been banned from competing at next year's Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang by the International Olympic Committee, but Russian athletes who who can prove that they are clean will be allowed to compete in South Korea under a neutral flag. It follows an investigation into allegations of state-sponsored doping at the 2014 Games hosted by Russia in Sochi. IOC President Thomas Bach and his board, who made the announcement in Lausanne on Tuesday, came to the decision after reading through the findings and recommendations of a 17-month investigation headed by the former president of Switzerland, Samuel Schmid. The Russian Olympic Committee has been suspended, but the IOC said it will invite Russian clean athletes to compete in February under the name Olympic Athletes from Russia. And Captain Joe Root says England can turn the Ashes series around despite going 2-0 with a defeat in the second test in Adelaide. England had an outside chance of a remarkable victory on the 5th day, but lost 6 wickets for 57 runs as Australia won by 120 runs. Australia will regain the Ashes if they win the third test in Perth, which starts on the 14th of December. England, who resumed on 176 for 4 in pursuit of 354, what would have been their highest fourth innings chase in Test, were bowled out for 233 inside the first session. Beaten by 10 wickets in the first Test, they have now lost 7 consecutive matches in Australia, having been whitewashed 5-0 in 2013-2014. However, Root said he would strongly disagree with any suggestion that this tour is going the same way as 4 years ago. And still reeling from their heavy innings defeat to the Black Caps in the opening test, West Indies were dealt another blow when captain Jason Holder was ruled out of the second test after being suspended by the International Cricket Council for an overrate offence. The ICC announced that West Indies have been hit by a slow overrate penalty after being adjudged to be 3 overs short of their target during the opening test, which the Windies lost by an innings and 67 runs inside 4 days at the Basing Reserve in Wellington. While the players were fined 30% of their match fee, Holder, as captain, was hit with a 60% fine. Under ICC regulations, players are fined 10% of their match fees for every over their side fails to bowl within the specified time, with the captain fined double. It is now expected that the opener and vice-captain Craig Brathwaite will step up to lead the side in Holder's absence. The second test bowls off on Saturday. And that takes us to the end of the Primetime News package. If you've missed any of the stories, you can catch up on CBN4.com or visit our Facebook page. Until our next broadcast, I am Alan Christopher saying thank you for watching.